guys, this is Kindergarten Rock's channel here. Today, we're going to continue the book called Ghosts by Jason Reynolds. Chapter 3, World Records for the Most Altercations. What do they call criminal records? Not criminal records, they call them something else. Rap sheets. Yeah, that's it, rap sheets. Which is such a dumb name because it makes me think of a rap music, like maybe a rap sheet is what rappers write their rhythms down on. But yeah, rap sheets, I got one of those. Not a real one, though. Not one that real criminals have. Nah, I got a school rap sheet, but it's school, they call it a file. I got a file, and even though I never actually seen it, it has to be pretty big because I've always been sent down to the principal's office or put in detention or suspended for shutting people down for talking smack. Oh, Castle, why are your clothes so big? Why are your pants so small? Why your name Castle? Why you always smell like you walked 1,000 miles to get here? Why it look like somebody tried to cut your hair with a butter knife? And my response would be, well, let's just use the schooly terms, not exemplary behavior. But I'd make a decision that there would be more entries added to the file. The file would be closed forever because now my career in track, which was really my soon-to-be career in basketball, was at stake. All of a sudden, I had too much on the line. There would be no more altercations. That's the word Principal Marshall always used on the phone with my mother. Altercations. And I was altercation-free for 17 hours and 2 minutes. 2 of those hours were spent watching one of those corny, romantic, mushy movies with my mom. She loves those things, and every night we were eating dinner. She sits in our couch in the living room and watches our wide opening mail and clipping coupons. I've always spread all my blankets on the floor, 3 or 4 to make what Mom calls a pallet, which is there. I eventually doze off. She takes the couch, which haven't slept in our room since Dad. It's too weird for her to try to sleep in the room they slept in. And I got this thing about being as close to the door as possible, just in case we had to get up and run again. Plus, now that I've gotten older, I just want to make sure I'm near her in case I gotta protect her. So yeah, that was 2 hours. 9:00 p.m. Then I was asleep for 10 hours. I'm grumpy when I don't get at least 8. Some people would say I'm grumpy even when I do, but they don't know nothing. 7:00 a.m. snooze. 7:05 a.m. snooze. 7:10 a.m. Cass, get your butt up for school. I'm not playing. 7:20 a.m. Lay there looking around in the living room. Up at the light in the ceiling, the glass thing that covers the bulb, and there's dead bugs in it. Under the couch, there are toys that I don't even remember playing with. Look at the pictures on the wall. Me at 9, and at 8, and at 7, when Mom was experimenting with giving me a mohawk. But no pictures of the families. Then finally, it was time to get up. 8:00 a.m., 10 minutes spent in the shower, 10 minutes getting dressed, and 10 minutes eating breakfast toast with peanut butter and honey. 8:30 a.m., 17 minutes walking to school. 8:47 a.m., homeroom dismissed. 9:10 a.m., 45 minutes in English class where we were reading Lord of the Files, which, by the way, is a crazy book. 10:00 a.m., the 45 minutes in math class, which were basically 45 minutes of Maureen Thorne raising her hand at every single time Mr. Granger asked a question so that she could go up to the board and write the answer, such as a show-off. She liked the geeky girl version of Lou, so yeah, that happened. 10:50 a.m., And then there were social studies class, which I usually call nap time because we never study nothing social like, I don't know, social media or social events like parties. All social studies is a stupid way to say history. It's like the rap sheet of history or something like that. Anyways, I would usually snooze through it, but it was a new day and I was turning over a new leaf. So I stayed awake. Didn't really focus too much on nothing being said, but my eyes were wide open. 11:40 a.m. And then lunch. You know what I ate for lunch at the same time? You know who ate lunch the same time I did? Brandon Simmons. Jack from Lord of the Files. A power-hungry dummy and the single most annoying dude in the 7th grade. He owned a record that's really hard to own because there's a lot of annoying dummies in the 7th grade. Trust me, but none like him. Brandon was a year older than everybody because he stayed back a year. Dude was as dumb as dirt, and that wouldn't have been so bad if he was at least cool. But he wasn't. Plus, he was trailer. The most especially of us, so he treated everybody like chumps, especially me. Just made it to the cafeteria, 11:44 a.m. Got in line, Brandon came in after me, bumped me, and then seeing I ignored him, decided to step in front of him. Shaq, he said. Shaq was what he called me as his lame way of making fun of the fact that my name is Castle. You don't mind me buttering in front of you, right? I mean, it's not like you haven't had cafeteria food before. You probably had some last night, right? He shrugged and hit me with another one. Right. The only reason Brandon ever knew about my mother is back when we were in the 4th grade. Yes. I've known him that long. My mother thought it would have been a good idea to come speak at career day, and Brandon, he has used it as fuel ever since. He grinned, then looked around to make sure other people had heard him, which was always the most important part of his jerkness. That's a few more, right? I sat at the table, 11:50 a.m., the same table I sat in every day with my two friends, Dre Anderson and Red Griffin. I met Dre this year, and we hit it off because he's a ball player too. Plays for the Boys and Girls Club, and he told me I should have played, but I missed the tryouts on purpose. Thing is, Boys and Girls Clubs don't ever really cut nobody. Everybody could just sign up and play. Who wants to be on a team with a bunch of pity players? I don't want to burst Dre's bubble because that ain't cool. But for me, I'm too good to play on the team. Like that, I mean. I didn't really know that, but I knew that, I know that I know. And well, I've known him for a long time. We've been cool since 5th grade, mainly because even though we never really talk about nothing bad, with both kind of knew something bad has happened to us. Like for me, the best way to describe it is, I got a lot of scream inside, and I could tell Red did too. He was a white boy with red hair with everybody was friends, with mainly because people was scared that he was just crazy, and it better be on crazy good side. Jessica Grant said her mother said the only reason people had red hair is because they've red on the inside. Red like violent, but I got black hair, so does this mean I'm black on the inside anyway? Brandon came in and sat next to Red at the table. He usually sat further down by the other gas mouths, but not today. Today he sat right next to Red and right across from me and Dre. Yo, Red, you've ever been to Glass Manor? Brandon asked while chomping on a chicken drummy. Nope, Red said, dry. Just before taking a sip of his juice, he wasn't playing Brandon no mind. Oh man, you should go. It's something to see, Brandon said, now looking right at me. We cut your eye for a second, but then I darted mine to my french fries and ketchup. Dip, then bite, dip the bite. Don't look up! Don't pay him no attention! Dip, then bite, Brandon continued. You really gotta see where they got in the name Glass Manor from, because, dude, everybody who lives around there is freaking shattered. Dre let out a big sigh like, here we go again, sigh, and Red glanced at me because he knew I lived there. Everybody knew I lived there, and even though I wasn't the only kid at school from the neighborhood, it seemed like I caught the most mess about it, at least from Brandon. Red looking back at Brandon, disguised, then went on eating. What a dumb joke. Brandon was talking to Monqui. We sat next to him. 12:02 p.m. Really, he was snatching food off her plate and teasing her about her accent. But the thing was, everybody knew he had a crush on Monqui. No matter how many more face jokes he cracked, everybody also knew that he tried to get her, but she kept rejecting him, which was the real reason he snapped on her. Her accent wasn't ever all that bad. Hey, Shaq! He called out. Are you gonna have his fries again? I didn't say nothing. I hadn't have to explain that I always got just fries so I could save $1 to get sunflower seeds later. So I just ignored him, just sat there with my empty tray and shook up in my chocolate milk. Lunch would be over in a few minutes. I was close, so close, then Brandon grabbed a draw me off Marquis' tray. Here, take this. It's my good deed for the day, feeding the hungry, and then threw the chicken wing at me. It hit me in the chest, the grease instantly staining my t-shirt, and if my insides really were black at that moment, they were definitely turning red. Red and Dre looked at me, both their mouths open in disbelief. I could tell they could see the anger in their face in my eye. Dre slid down, and Red got up from the table, moved away from us. I brushed the overfried wing off my lap, opened my milk carton, took a swig, and then, with all my might, beamed the container at Brandon's head. He moved just in time, and the open milk box smashed into the table behind him. Brown liquid exploded everywhere, and everyone at the table whipped around to see what was happening. Brandon sprang from his seat, but before he could even make a move, I had to pick up my plastic tray, whacked him upside the head. He fell backwards, and I kept coming. I drove across the table, and after that, I was just like it was when I was sprinting. I didn't hear nothing. Not ever. Marquis squealing. And I didn't feel nothing either. I just lifted my arms fists tight and loaned them like hammers down onto Brandon's face. I had been good, so good, altercation free for 17 hours and 2 freaking minutes. The third, fourth, and fifth minutes of the 17 hours were the altercation minutes, but the sixth was the longest minute of them all, the embarrassing walk to the principal's office. You want to tell me what happened, or should I tell you? Principal Marshall closed his door behind him and took a seat at his desk, arms folded across his chest. He waited for me to answer, but I didn't. I just slouched in his chair and stared into my lap, biting on my bottom lip, trying to turn the red inside back to black. I was just so mad, and I couldn't get it to go away. Mr. Perham, or as everyone calls him, Big Perm, because of his last name and because he had bone-straight permed hair, is who pulled me off Brandon. He yoked me up in some kind of full Nelson, arm locked, and particularly dragged me to the corner until I calmed down enough for him to let me go. Of course, all the other students were screaming and cheering and all that like I was putting on some kind of show. Another one. But it was never a show of me. It was serious. It was always serious. Next, Perham helped Brandon as he started leading him to the nurse's office. No smack was coming from Brandon's stupid lips. Not mom's jokes, no poor jokes, no name jokes, none of that. Just blood and ketchup. Still, I said nothing to the principal. I wasn't about to just snitch on myself. Okay, Mr. Cranshaw, let me tell you what happened, Mr. Principal continued. He leaned forward and rested both hands on his desk, fingers woven. You just got yourself suspended again. Dang! I didn't even start it! I couldn't resist muttering. What's that? The principal asked with some extra bass in his voice. I lifted my head. I said, I did. It started. Brandon was talking about me. He kept going on me. I tried to keep a stone face, which is hard to do when you're desperately trying to explain yourself. About how your mother works in the cafeteria, and about my neighborhood, and all that. He's always trying me, and he don't even know me like that. Just wouldn't shut up. Marshall leaned back in his seat. So instead of telling a teacher, you jumped on him? Well, yeah, Brendan needed a beatdown as far as I was concerned. Somebody had to do it. And well, this wasn't the first time I'd been in this kind of an altercation. I mean, there were times I yelled at Mr. Cure because he kept being mean about us not understanding Spanish well enough to speak in the perfect accent or whatever. He was just riding us too hard for us not rolling our R's, and one day I just lost it. After class, everybody told me he deserved it, but I was still caught at detention for it. And then another time, Diamond D.W. Woods told everybody that I kissed a girl named Janae, who was the only pretty girl who liked me. But I hadn't told D.W. that lie. I just told him that me and Janae exchanged phone numbers. Once she found out, Jamie said I was disguising and stopped talking to me. So I punched Diamond in the stomach. He cried and ran to Marshall, and I got suspended for that one. And then Janae liked me again. But I was already over her, and me and Brandon had a bunch of other moments, but it was mostly just a lot of yelling, really, just me yelling. And him laughing, but no more getting the Brandon renewed runaround. Then it hit me. Run around, running the team. Coach made a deal with my mother. I only had one shot. No mess-ups, no devours, no altercations. But what I was supposed to do? What would you have done? I asked Mr. Marshall. The tears was tearing and out and out. And I was just trying my best to keep them in. You ain't never been pushed before to the point you just couldn't take it. Principal Marshall cocked his head to the side and studied me. Then he hunched forward again and put his face in his palms as if he were remembering a time he went through this. Then he wiped his hands down his face like he was washing the memory away. I'm gonna deal with Brandon, but you, he said, his voice now a little softer. You gotta get it together, Castle. I know you've been through some things, but you just can't keep doing this. He stood up from his desk and came around to the front. I'm not going to give you a full suspension this time, but you do have to go home for the rest of the day. He reached behind him for the big black telephone. Here, he held the phone towards me. Call your mom. Now, I know that Principal Marshall was letting me off the hook big time, but there was no way I could call my mother and tell her that I needed her to come get me from school. No way. I hadn't even really been on the track team, and I was already about to be kicked off. I hadn't even been to practice yet. Plus, what was I gonna say? Then I punched the jerk. Then I punched the jerk for talking trash about me. I mean, that is what happened. And it awesome as the sounds, my mother would have hit me with would have hit me with the. How many times do I have to tell you to be the bigger person, followed by some crazy punishment that involved me coming to the hospital with her, which was always whack. I can't. I shot back at the principal. You can't what? I can't call her. He looked confused, and why not? I don't know, I said, trying to think of a good reason, a good lie, but nothing came. I just can't. Then it hit me. But I can call my uncle. Your uncle, he said. Matter of factly, he knew that was impossible. The other thing I should tell you about files is that sometimes they have way too much information about you and them, stuff that don't be nobody's business. And where is this uncle? He's working, but he can come get me. Why haven't I heard of this uncle before? He asked suspiciously. He's been gone, I explained, trying to keep a straight face, looked him dead in the eye, but he's back now. Yikes! Not really that smooth of an answer. Mr. Marshall just sat there squinting at me, one eye slightly more closed than the other. Tapping his leg, then he come and handed on me on the phone. Call him, he sighed. I unzipped my backpack and dug around for the card, then said, The Defenders coach in black block letters. I dialed and waited while it rang. Come on, pick it up. I thought, please pick it up. Yes, it was Coach's voice on the other end of the phone, but he didn't say hello or nothing, so it caught me off guard. Hello, I said. Who's this? It's me, Castle. I spoke low into the phone. Ghost? Ghost, boy, what are you doing calling me at... He paused, I guess to check this time. At 12:42. Ain't you in school? Yeah, but I need you to come get me, I said, looking up at Principal Marshall, who was staring at a hole in my head. I was trying not to say Uncle, which was he was waiting for. I got in trouble. What? Coach said. And before I could say anything else, he told me to hold on. 975. Ma'am. Uh-huh. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Then the sound of the door slamming. Now, what are you talking about, Ghost? I got in trouble and they're suspending me for the day, so I need you to come get me. Why are you calling me? Why don't you call your... And before he could ever even finish his sentence, he answered his own question. He answered his own question. Oh, I see, kid. You're already killing me. I glanced up at Principal Marshall again. He was getting antsy, and I know I only had a few seconds before he snatched the phone. Turns out I had even less than a few seconds. Give me the phone, Principal Marshall said, getting up and grabbing it from me. Then he airs everything out. Hello, Principal Marshall. Here it is, Castle's uncle. I dropped my head and waited to pretty much be body slammed. Uh-huh. Yes. Well, I need him off the premises as soon as possible, just for the rest of the day. Principal Marshall sat on the edge of his desk, waiting for me to look him in the eye. But I wouldn't. I just looked around the office and all the posters then said stuff like excellence and discipline. And he had pictures of past students, probably kids who did excellent things, disciplined things, holding ribbons at a sentence fair, clutching a trophy, some kid giving the camera a thumbs up like a cornball, probably all good students, not kids like me. Mr. Marshall was uh-huh-ing Coach. Uh-huh, I said, okay. Then he handed the phone back to me. But Coach had already hung up. Principal Marshall walked back behind his desk and took a seat. "What did he say?" I asked, bracing for the slam. He said, "He'll be here in a minute." It would have been the worst mistake ever to smile, but I'm sure I wanted to. I sat there in the office while the principal went on about his business, flipping through folders, clicking on something on his computer, scribbling in a notepad, when I finally asked him about the pictures of the different students on the wall. "Who those kids?" I asked, biting a fingernail. "Must have snagged it in the scuffle." Principal Marshall looked up from his busy work. "You don't get to ask me any questions until tomorrow," he snapped. His tone was sharp, and I could tell he wasn't playing. "I don't want to hear your voice. Your job right now is to sit there and wait for your uncle. Got it?" I just nodded and snapped to myself. Thankfully, it wasn't too long before Coach came in, marching up the hallway. Then the look he gave me was just as bad as the look Mr. Marshall has given me, which was like the looks my mom gives me whenever I was in these situations. "Then I'm so disappointed in your look," which is way worse than the "I'm mad" look. "I'm here to get Castle," Coach said, the secretary, Mr. Dickinson. "Okay, just sign him out. She said. Coach scribbled something on a piece of paper, checked his watch, jolted this time down, met the principal, shook his hand, apologizing to him for what I did, and we were out of there. On our way down the hall, Coach didn't say a thing, not a word, but as soon as we got into his cab, he lit me up. "What are you thinking telling those people I'm your uncle? Do you know that's probably against the law? I'm not sure if that is or isn't, but probably is. And if it is, you got me here committing crimes. I know you for one day, and I just kidnapped you." I kept quiet because Coach was really mad. Plus, I was super grateful that he came and got me, and I didn't want to say anything to mess that up. Shoot! He might have turned around and took me back to the school if I said the wrong thing. Then finally, after a few minutes, he calmed down a little and asked, "What happened anyway?" "I got in a fight." I started out the window as we passed Mr. Charles' store. "Care to elaborate?" Coach breed. "Okay, so there's this dude, Brandon Simmons. He's always kidding me about my mom and where I live and how I look and all that, and today I just couldn't take it no more. I faced Coach. He glanced at me and then back to the road, so I jumped on him, beat him down. And what you think that makes you tough?" Coach scoffed. I thought about this for a second. "I don't know. Does that make it right?" he asked. "What is it about adults that make them all just say the same things, like they all study the same book? About grown-ups memorizing phrases like, 'Does this make it right?' and be the bigger person." I just shrugged, spoke with my shoulders. I kind of want to say, yes, me punching Brandon in the face, me makes it right because he had been begging for it forever. "I made it right for everybody," he joked on, "and those kids would have gotten me their honor roll certificates for what I did." This wasn't the answer Coach was looking for, but man, that's how I felt. Coach drove me through town, and eventually we ended up at Martin Luther King Park. He said that since I had cost him a half day's worth of fears, the front seat wasn't even all junky yet. I would have had to make it up to him by putting in extra work at the track, which was fine with me. Coach grabbed his whistle and clipboard from the glove compartment. "Okay, here's how you are spending your suspension. We got us 3 hours before practice. We're going to use this time to get you caught up this way. All this goes." "How about what goes?" "Being on my team, boy." I could tell he was still irritated, but not as much as he had been. We headed over the track. the bright white lines, marking out the red lines, the green fields in the middle. Okay, so first things first. Where's your practice clothes? Coach said. Them, I said. You have on jeans and high tops? He started the obvious. I looked up at myself. Then, what a stain on my sneakers. A new one. Maybe ketchup or chocolate milk, so I said, what's wrong with that? Coach sat down on the bench. Stretched his legs out. You know what? Don't worry about it. We'll figure that out later. Let's just start with some stretching. Apparently, there were a whole slew of different kinds of stretches, and Coach showed me how to do them all. Each one was for a different reason. This one was this part of the leg, that one of that part of the leg, another one for your back, then jumping jacks, 2 touches, push-ups. It all seemed silly to me, but not as silly as the next part of the toe lab warm-up jog. Me and Coach bounced around the track, him telling me to keep my arms tucked, which was actually hard to do. He said form is everything, and when it comes to running and that, it has more to do with form than how fast your legs move. That doesn't sound right to me. It seems like if my arms were tucked but my legs weren't moving fast, then I wasn't going to be beating nobody, just common sense. But then again, I don't think a 2-lap jog, as slow as we were jogging, we got me going. But by the time we finished, I was pouring sweat. Good, he said as we got back to the bench. He bounced around on his toes like a boxer before finally settling down. Feels good, doesn't it? I wiped my face with my shirt and took a seat. I was tired and agonized at the same time, which was weird. I didn't do it to make me feel tough, I blurted out of nowhere. Coach stopped bouncing. He sat down next to me and grabbed a towel from his bag. What are you talking about? He asked, wiping seats from his bald head, more like buffing on it. What'd you ask me in the car? If beating up Brandon makes me tough? I reminded him. I said, didn't know, but I do. We locked eyes. The answer is no. I didn't make me tough. Coach moved the towel from his head to his neck. So what does it make you then? I don't know, but not tough. I thought it for a second, because for something to make you feel tough, you gotta be a little bit scared of it at first. Then you gotta beat it. But I wasn't scared of Brandon at all. He's just a big guy with a mouth. That ain't really all that scary to me. I've been thinking about this when we were running around the track warming up. And between Coach's tips about form and how that stuff, my brain was kicking that question around. Let me guess, Coach said, now flinging the towel over his shoulder. You're one of these kids who ain't scared of nothing or nobody. Nah, I chucked just for a second, because I knew these kinds of kids Coach were talking about, the kids who were saying that ain't scared, but scared of everything. Kids like Brandon. He talked at that trash and teased people because he was shook. A cupcake, but that wasn't me. I ain't saying that. I've definitely been scared of somebody before. Real scared, I added, thinking about how loud a gun sounds when it's fired in a small room. That's how come I know how to run so fast, but now the only person I'm scared of other than my mother, like I do things I know ain't cool, but even though I know they ain't cool, like beating on Brandon, all of a sudden I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, so I guess the only other person I'm really scared of maybe is me. A great step from Coach. He rubbed his right knee. I hear you, kid, he said, wincing, stretching out his right leg, bending it, then straightening it. And then he did the same to the left. Trouble is, you can't run away from yourself. Coach snatched the towel from his shoulder, folding it to a perfect square, and set it in the space between us. Unfortunately, he said, ain't nobody that fast. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed chapter 3 of, Ghost. Thank you for watching, and, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed chapter 3 of Ghost. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.